What's up YouTube, Zero here, and today I have an amazing Crabominable and Greninja deck in Pokemon TCG Pocket. In this video, I'll go over the deck build that you can see on the left hand side of the screen. I'll talk about each of the cards individually, and I'll talk about why each of these cards play really well with each other, and why you should be checking out this deck. Before I get into it, I do want to say if you do enjoy this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more Pokemon TCG content. I do a bunch of other video games, so feel free to check those out as well. Thank you so much in advance for doing so. Without further ado, let's talk about this Crabominable and Greninja deck in Pokemon TCG Pocket. I'm surprised a lot more players aren't utilizing a deck combination like this. Crabominable is insanely quick to get on the playing field and start attacking. It requires, of course, 1 evolution and 1 energy, and you do have to hit for 40 before Crabominable is at its best. But right after you're able to do that, it's going to be hitting for 80 every time, and 80 damage for 1 energy is absolutely insane and can destroy opponents very fast. So let's talk about Crabominable EX and its evolution line, then talk about Greninja. Crabominable EX, 1 move, 1 water energy. Insatiable striking, 40 damage. However, during your next turn, this Pokemon's insatiable striking attack does plus 40 damage. So after 1 attack, as long as you keep Crabominable EX in that active slot, it's going to be hitting for 80 every time, which is amazing. You're hitting for 80. You can power up Pokemon on the bench with your other energy, and you can constantly destroy opponents very quickly. So that's absolutely awesome. A lot of matches are going to be won extremely quick by getting your Crabominable EX out in that active slot and attacking right off the rip. Of course, in the line of Crabominable, it is only 1 evolution. You have Crabrawler, which is just 1 colorless energy for Punch, which deals 20 damage. So I have double up of course, the Crabominable and the Crabrawler. The point of this deck is to get Crabominable out as quickly as possible and attacking as quickly as possible, so you can be doing that 80 damage to your opponent's Pokemon. Now, Crabominable is going to be found in the Celestial Guardian Solgaleo packs, so be on the lookout for the Solgaleo Celestial Guardians packs if you do want this card and its evolution line. Now let's talk about the other Pokemon I have in this deck, Greninja. Greninja is absolutely awesome and is making a comeback with the introduction of Rare Candy into Pokemon TCG Pocket, and you can see I do have a Rare Candy as a part of this deck. Greninja has 2 benefits. 1, Mist Slash for 2 energy, 1 water, 1 colorless, deals 60 damage. But that's not the bread and butter of Greninja or why you're going to be putting it on a team. Greninja also has Water Shuriken. Once during your turn, you may do 20 damage to 1 of your opponent's Pokemon. That's not even the active Pokemon. You can choose any Pokemon your opponent has on the playing field, and you can deal 20 damage to it. This is absolutely awesome and a great combination for Crabominable. Now, Crabominable, as good as it is, its sole purpose is to get out on the playing field and start attacking quickly, so you can deal that 80 damage per turn. 80 damage per turn is great for just 1 water energy a few turns into the battle. However, there are a lot of Pokemon where after they get built up, they can deal a lot more damage. The one I'm facing right now, Palkia EX, if it does get fully powered, it can deal 150, but of course it does take a little bit of time. The benefit of Crabominable is getting out quickly, so to add some firepower to that, I add Greninja. Greninja can deal 20 extra damage to your Crabominable, so you're dealing 100 damage per turn. And again, it doesn't necessarily need to be towards that active Pokemon, but it can be. And that's going to be insanely good because you don't need any energy for that extra 20 for Greninja. All you need to do is evolve into Greninja and you can start dealing that extra 20 damage. What's also nice is if you get that second Greninja on the battlefield, you can deal that extra 20. So at most, during any point in time, if you have 2 Greninjas in your Crabominable on the playing field, you can deal up to 120 damage per turn, which is absolutely awesome, especially considering that only requires 1 energy to do so. So you can circumvent certain cards such as Team Rocket Grunt that takes away energy pretty easily. You can also circumvent Beedrill that removes energy off of your active Pokemon, so it's not going to matter too much against certain cards that could remove energy. So this deck is a nice counter to those, on top of dealing 120 damage at the max when your deck is fully on the playing field. So that's pretty awesome. But Crabominable itself dealing 80 damage really quickly before your opponent's able to get set up can really wreck a lot of opposing teams. So I do love that about this deck, is that it hits very quickly and very hard with those quick turns. And of course with Greninja, I'm going to have 2 Greninjas. I'm going to have 2 Froakies, which is the basic of the evolution line. And then I'm going to have only one Frogadier in this deck. Now, to evolve Greninja more quickly, I am going to have 2 rare candies that I'll talk about in a sec. But for the Greninja line, you are going to find those in the Genetic Apex Charizard packs. So be on the lookout for this evolution line in the Genetic Apex Charizard packs. Now let's talk about that rare candy, because rare candy is going to be extremely important. If you've been around the game for a little while, you already know what rare candy does. You're going to choose a basic Pokemon. So in this instance, it's going to be Froakie, because I only have the Froakie, Frogadier, Greninja line that has a stage 1 and a stage 2. Choose one of your basic Pokemon in play. If you have a stage 2 card in your hand that evolves from that Pokemon, put that card onto the basic Pokemon to evolve it, skipping the stage 1. You can't use this card during your first turn or on a basic Pokemon that was put into play this turn. This card is absolutely amazing to getting Greninja going a lot quicker. As long as you've had Froakie on the playing field for 1 turn, if you have a rare candy and a Greninja in your hand, you can evolve right into your Greninja and start dealing that 20 damage from Water Shuriken, which is absolutely awesome. Of course, I have 2 rare candies, and I have the Frogadier. Some of you are going to ask, why do I have the Frogadier on top of the 2 rare candies? Because you really don't need it. I just do it because I want to have the added odds of being able to evolve my Greninja. 1 Frogadier plus 2 rare candies are going to give me a 15% chance of pulling one of those cards, as opposed to just a 10% chance if I have the 2 rare candies. So that's going to give me that little bit extra odds so I can make sure I can get my Greninja onto the playing field. That 10 extra damage or 20 extra damage is going to be really awesome, especially when coupled with Crabominable. Now, what's also nice is I do have 1 Cyrus. Cyrus couples really well with Water Shuriken. Now, Cyrus, for those of you who don't know, switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon that has damage on it to the active spot. So what's nice about this is Water Shuriken can hit any Pokemon on the playing field. So if you have Cyrus in your hand and there's a Pokemon on your opponent's bench that you want to target, you can hit it with Water Shuriken. You can draw Cyrus and put that opponent's Pokemon onto the battlefield or onto the active spot so you can attack it with Crabominable. So that combination of Cyrus, Water Shuriken is really nice as well. So I do have 1 Cyrus. Cyrus is going to be found in the Space-Time Smackdown Palkia packs. And Rare Candy, for those of you who don't know, are going to be in either of the Celestial Guardians packs, the Lunala, or the Solgaleo. Now some of the basic cards that I pretty much have in every deck: Pokeball and Professor's Research. Professor's Research, you draw 2 cards. And Pokeball, you put a random basic Pokemon from your deck into your hand. Of course, as I said earlier, the bread and butter of this deck is getting Crabominable going as quickly as possible, but also getting Greninja on the playing field to add that extra 20. Having both Greninjas on the playing field is a massive benefit, because you're dealing 120 as opposed to 100, as opposed to 80 if you don't have any Greninjas on the playing field. So having that option of dealing 120 is absolutely awesome, especially considering it's only 1 energy. So the Pokeballs and the Professor's Research are going to allow to draw those cards even quicker. Pokemon Communication. I have this in this deck because the main point of this deck, where you're going to deal most of your damage, is going to be Crabominable. Pokemon Communication, you choose a Pokemon in your hand and switch it with a random Pokemon in your deck. So if you're not pulling that Crabrawler or that Crabominable that you want, you can sacrifice a card to pull it. But of course, that's not the only reason you may want to utilize this card. Perhaps you have your Crabominable on the playing field, you have 2 Greninjas in your hand, and you don't have a Froakie yet. Maybe you want to sacrifice one of your Greninjas to try and get a Froakie, or maybe you have a Frogadier in your hand and a rare candy in your hand, and you have a Froakie on the playing field and you want that Greninja. You can sacrifice the Frogadier so you can get, or try to get, the Greninja. Of course, there are multiple benefits to having Pokemon Communication, but having the Crabominable on the playing field with your Greninja is what you're looking for to maximize the usefulness of this deck and these Pokemon combinations, so you could be at your peak. So that's why you may want to utilize Pokemon Communication to sacrifice one of the Pokemon in your hand that you can't utilize for a card in your deck that you need more. So I do like 2 Pokemon Communications here, and that is found from the Space Time Smackdown Dialga packs. Last but not least, Crabominable has a decent HP at 160. Of course, you're going to be dealing damage quickly, so you want to make sure that any damage you're taking is easily taken care of. That's why I'm going to have Irida in this deck. Irida, you heal 40 damage from each of your Pokemon that has any water energy on it. This is going to be nice to increasing the survivability of Crabominable. Every extra 40 damage is going to keep Crabominable out there dealing its 80 damage a lot longer. So Irida is going to increase the survivability as much as possible, which is why I do like Irida in this deck. 2 of them. Now, of course, if you want to play around with the numbers, you could go with 2 Cyruses and 1 Irida, but I found that 2 Iridas keeping my Crabominable alive as long as possible is going to be the play. 1 Cyrus just in case there is a Pokemon on the bench that I may want to attack closer to the end of the match. Maybe I already have 2 points and I want to attack a weak Pokemon on the bench, but it has full health. I can use Water Shuriken on the Pokemon on the bench, utilize Cyrus to pull it out, and then finish it off with Crabominable. So that's a play towards the end of the game in which maybe you're already having that built up battlefield ready for you and the built up points. However, of course, you could go 2 Cyruses, 1 Irida if you feel the need, but Irida is going to be more useful in most matches, increasing the survivability of both your Greninja and Crabominable. If they're taking damage, you can increase their survivability, so you don't have to worry as much about taking early damage. You can heal up easily from that early damage. So that's why I like Irida as a part of this deck, 2 of them as opposed to 2 Cyruses. Let me know in the comments section what you think of this combination, the Crabominable Greninja deck. Try to say Crabominable 5 times in a row fast. It's extremely hard. But what do you think of this deck? Do you like this combination? Again, I mentioned earlier, I'm surprised more players aren't utilizing this combination. Greninja has made a huge comeback and is doing extremely great things right now. It has a lot of good combinations in this game. I just came out with a build with a Greninja Decidueye deck. Take a look at that if you haven't already. That's an extremely powerful duo that's doing a lot of great things. I love that combination, and I love this combination as well. It's extremely powerful, and you can defeat a lot of enemies extremely quickly with this deck. A lot of opponents aren't going to be ready or aren't going to be fully built up and ready to attack you by the time you're attacking and dealing a lot of damage, which is why I love this deck combination. So again, let me know in the comment section what you think. What are some substitutions you'd make in terms of cards in this deck? What would you add? What would you subtract? Let me know in the comment section. Let's talk anything Pokemon in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and until next time, peace.